Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Masala Talks Lockdown Mode. Thanks to the great response जो आपने हमें पिछले हमारे talk पे दिया था. I have Sadaf Haider with me again. Assalamu alaikum, Sadaf.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
How are you? I'm good.
Good, good.
How are rosas treating you? हमारी तरफ शाम हो गई by the way.
I think वो चल रहे हैं बस. I think for most people, huh? It's a very unusual Ramadan, right?
Of course, unusual time. So हम आज बात करेंगे कुछ specific चीजों के बारे में. पिछली दफा हमारी जो conversation बड़ी generic थी, लेकिन इस दफा हमने सोचा है कि बात का जो रुख है या जो conversation का topics का जो रुख है वो हम जरा सा focus रखेंगे एक specific TV show के बारे में which is making all the waves. तो वो जो हम सारे देख रहे हैं, जो बाकी हमने देखे हैं वो तो हमने देखे ही हैं, लेकिन एक specific TV show ऐसा है जिसके ऊपर बहुत ज्यादा बात हो रही है और उसका नाम है Ertugrul. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, पता, I mean, I'm no expert at Turkish, लेकिन मुझे लग रहा है कि the G is kind of silent, Ertugrul or something like that, right?
The R is silent, you mean?
Yeah. One of the, I think the G is, I'm not saying it correctly and I don't dare try. मुझे कोशिश भी नहीं करनी.
तो जो हमारा तो इसी से बल्कि मेरे ख्याल से हमारा पॉइंट अगला शुरू होता है कि कल्चर जो जबान किसी भी सकाफत का या किसी भी कल्चर का एक बहुत जरूरी बहुत अहम हिस्सा होता है. तो हमें तो बोलना भी नहीं आता, हमें तो पता भी नहीं है कि ये तुर्किश जबान बोली कैसे जाती है. अलबत्ता वन थिंग व्हिच इज आई थिंक आई एम श्योर मोस्ट पीपल नो कि उर्दू जबान जो है वो भी तुर्किश जबान से बहुत ज्यादा इन्फ्लुएंस्ड है. उर्दू एक लश्करी जबान कहते हैं. तो हमारा जो कल्चर भी है शायद सदफ, वुड इट बी राइट टू से दैट हमारा कल्चर भी थोड़ा सा लश्करी है. हम हर चीज के एक मेल्टिंग पॉट का रिजल्ट हैं. सो हम इस बारे में थोड़ी सी बात करेंगे. तो मैं पहले तो सदफ से ये पूछूंगी कि सदफ टेल मी, आपने बहुत सारा आई थिंक पूरा देख लिया है आपने शो, राइट? मैंने नहीं देखा है तो स्पॉयलर्स नहीं देने लेकिन बताना है कि ये शो इंट्रोडक्शन दे दें कि शो क्या है. आपने देखा है, आपने इसको सबटाइटल्स के साथ देखा है, मैं उर्दू वाला देख रही हूँ. सो टेल मी व्हाट इट्स अबाउट, टेल द व्यूअर्स व्हाट इट्स अबाउट जिन्होंने ये कैच अप नहीं किया लेकिन वो कंट्रोवर्सी देख रहे हैं थोड़ी सी.
Okay, so Ertugrul or Drillis, उसका नाम actually जो हमने देखा था Netflix के ऊपर was Drillis, which in Turkish means resurrection, या I'm not sure उर्दू का लफ्ज़ क्या होगा, नई उमंग, something like that, and inspiration, right? So वो हमने तो जैसे me and my husband are addicts and हमने subtitles के साथ देखा. So वो जो आप लश्करी ज़बान की बात कर रही हैं, like I went to Turkey, मुझे कुछ समझ ना आए टर्किश लोगों की, right? तो
मुश्किल ज़बान है.
No, it's not a मुश्किल ज़बान, and this is where the funny part comes in. आप subtitles के साथ देखें तो आहिस्ता-आहिस्ता आपको समझ आ जाती है.
It starts to click.
Right, और आपको उर्दू के लफ्ज नजर आ जाते हैं and you सुनाई जाते हैं. So वो हर बात पे खासकर अर्तुगरुल जो है वो लाकिन कहता है. आहिस्ता आहिस्ता मुझे समझ आ रही he's saying लेकिन लेकिन उसकी pronunciation लाकिन है, right? And a lot of other things, सखाफत, सदाकत, you know, not just Arabic borrowed words but actually, and you know, when things are ruined वो कहते हैं हर शय, जैसे हम लोग कहते हैं हर शय. So there are similarities, but obviously it's not like जैसे हम इंडिया जाते हैं या कहीं, well I've never been, but अगर इंडियन फिल्म देखें तो उसकी तो फौरन समझ आ जाती है, right? But there are
इंडियन में बॉलीवुड
yeah, Bollywood.
क्योंकि इंडिया का जो सिनेमा है उसमें तो रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस तो बहुत ज्यादा हैं.
Right, and I get told off by people all the time. तुम बॉलीवुड कह रही हो और तुम्हें पता नहीं कि you know, that's just North India. India is a big country. So I accept that. But let me start with Ertugrul. It's a story जैसे, I mean, काफी लोग कहते हैं Game of Thrones की तरह, and वो जो लोग जिन्होंने Game of Thrones नहीं देखी, it is set in medieval times, यानी कि 12th century है, 12वीं सदी. Yeah, and it's about the Oghuz Turks. अच्छा, एक तो टर्की है और एक टर्किक पीपल्स है. जैसे फर्ज करें हम लोग हैं, the Mughals were Chagatai Turks, right? At least partly. I don't know their entire जैसे वो pedigree. तो इसलिए भी थोड़ा सा वो मिलती जुलती customs जो है ना वो they have spread. So this is about the Oghuz Turks and the Seljuk Empire. ऐसे कहने को empire है लेकिन it's a small area, right? And it's how they're surviving. The empire is collapsing. उनकी जो kingdom है, the Seljuk
जी
kingdom,
जी
and the Mongols, you know, like Genghis Khan की जो औलाद थी,
yeah
वो बार-बार अटैक कर रहे हैं, and it's at a crossroads, कि जैसे एक
और
बहुत ही बुरा
Crusaders
वक्त
भी हैं उसकी बीच
है.
में. So, Sadaf, I have only caught up with the first 2-3 episodes. I've just started watching the third episode. Hopefully by the time जब तक हम ये air करेंगे मैंने और भी देख ली होंगी. One thing which I'm also sort of trying to understand, and I've been reading about it as well. इसकी political connotations बहुत हैं. इसका टर्की की politics में इसका एक specific role है इस TV show का. I understood that it was sort of to offset the political sort of scenery in Turkey at the time, which had shows about the Ottoman Empire, which was the complete opposite of the sort of social commentary that Ertugrul is making. You know, it's medieval, but that was also medieval. But then this is also like, you know, sort of more rooted into Islamic Sufism and sort of more grounded in terms of tradition. So it had more political connotations of what Erdogan was also preaching at that time. So एक तो ये चीज है, और दूसरी चीज जो इसमें इंटरेस्टिंग है वो ये है कि जो इस्लामिक हिस्ट्री के अपने हमारे बहुत सारे मोमेंट्स थे, ग्रेट मोमेंट्स थे, कुछ ग्लोरियस थे, कुछ नॉट सो ग्लोरियस थे, तो उनको कैसे वीव इन किया गया है. इट स्टेज क्लोज टू द पाथ ऑफ एक्चुअल रियलिटी, while it is not the real history, it's not a docudrama, it's a fictional piece of work. दो चीजें जो मैं ये इन दो चीजों से हवाले से जो मैं इस वक्त ट्विटर या वैसे कमेंट्री देख रही हूँ, उसमें ये दो चीजें बहुत अहम है. और तीसरी चीज जो बहुत अहम है जिसके ऊपर हम जरूर बात करेंगे वो ये है कि अब हमारे पाकिस्तानी भाई मॉरल ब्रिगेड और भाई बहने हमारी जा के वो उनके स्टार्स को बता रहे हैं कि दुपट्टा ऐसे पहनो और ये वाले कपड़े नहीं पहनो. तो इसके ऊपर हम जरूर बात करेंगे. लेकिन मैं ये कह रही हूँ कि अभी जो हमारा पाकिस्तानी ट्विटर पे जो डिलेमा बना हुआ है वो ये बना हुआ है कि जी ये तो हमारा कल्चर नहीं है, ऐसे तो हम नहीं बोलते, हम तो हमें टर्किश का क्या पता, और हम क्यों देख रहे हैं ये, और क्यों हमारी आवाम पागल हो रही है इसके पीछे. डू यू नॉट फील के हम ढूंढ रहे हैं, हर इंसान आइडेंटिटी ढूंढता है, तो पाकिस्तानी भी सबकी तरह आइडेंटिटी ढूंढ रहे हैं. और उर्तुगुल में उनको एक सॉर्ट ऑफ उनका थोड़ा सा आइडेंटिटी क्राइसिस जो है वो थोड़ा सा उनको रिजॉल्व होता दिख रहा है कि देखो जी हमारी की रिप्रेजेंटेशन है, हमारा भी मुसलमान जवान जो है वो तलवार पीटते हुए कह सकता है हक है अल्लाह, सच है अल्लाह. So that's, you know, that gives them that sort of that buzz.
I agree with you to a certain extent, like, I'll go it from a different perspective.
Okay.
I think since 9/11, and I think, you know, everybody knows those events, there has been a certain image presented, particularly in the Western media, and you know, because of a lack of knowledge, right? So, you know, it's always the Muslim is the third terrorist from the left. Right? अगर खासकर अगर पाकिस्तानी है, I still remember कि पाकिस्तान को उन्होंने the most dangerous country in the world Time magazine के ऊपर, तो मैं उस वक्त लिबर्टी में शॉपिंग कर रही थी. I was thinking, right? You know, my cousin sent me the image on the phone, and मैंने कहा अच्छा, okay, but let me मैं कपड़े खरीद रही as usual, right? So it was kind of like, but obviously if you don't understand people, you don't take the time and effort to meet them personally. And this is just one point I'll say. I live in Dallas. So I met a professor of Southeast Asian studies. Now he is someone the government consults. And I said, wow, that's great. You're an expert on Pakistan. And he said, I've never been to Pakistan. So, and, but
that sounds about right.
Yeah. So that is the level of ignorance. So Muslims, when they're on the screen, are usually presented in this way. Also, we are somewhat ourselves to blame, because as soon as a Muslim appears on screen, and you can see it on Twitter, koi film banayega, koi drama, hi Allah, aise Musliman nahi hote, right? The more liberal Muslims like myself will say, isko zyada strict bana diya. If they're very strict, conservative, my God, that woman, she had one strand of hair showing, right? She's not a good Muslim. So hum logon ka bhi kuch apna bhi kasoor hai, right? We're not very tolerant on that respect. So put that aside. So I'm not sure it answers maybe an identity crisis, but it certainly answers a need for inspiration, because for too long we see negative images of Muslims, particularly in the Western media. So it's very easy. Hum log is cheez ko internalize bhi kar rahe hain. Right? Whether we realize it or not, मैं कभी Twitter के ऊपर conversation सुनती हूँ, and I see the apologetic tones, and I you know, and there is criticism of countries and etc., which is fair enough, right? We should all fight extremism. Lekin it is taking it out of context of the region, right? So I believe it's not a question of people looking for identity. I think hum logon ko pata hai, we are from the Indus civilization, right? The Indus Valley, right? We understand Bollywood, you know, our ancestors were Indians, right? Not Indians of the new India, but of Hindustan, right?
Yeah.
We are the
Muslims of Hindustan, yeah.
Right. So, and when we talk about Muslims of Hindustan, and this is my perspective, I'm obviously, you know, you'd have to go to a historian, but from what I've read, the Mughals had Turkic roots. The history of the Indian kings and queens by one of the highest authorities is called India in the Persianate age, right? So there were Persian influences too, there were Turkey. Yeah. So we're a nice blend. And that's beautiful. ये जो एक हम लोग चाहते हैं ना कि वे cultural homogeny हो जाए, who gets to define it, right? So yeah, we know who we
homogeny
are.
almost always leads to hegemony. तो मसला यही है ना सारा कि हमारा जो cultural, जो हम cultural capital जिसको समझते हैं, वो cultural capital shared है. मुसलमानों का specific डिलेमा तो नहीं कह सकते, एसिड भी है और बर्डन भी है, बिकॉज मैं यही बात आपसे करना चाह रही थी और मेरा जो इसमें टेक है वो ये है कि मुसलमानों की जो एक रिच हिस्ट्री है जिसमें एक जैसे हर सिविलाइजेशन का या हर एक सॉर्ट ऑफ पीपल का एक राइज और फॉल और वॉर एंड देन प्लंडर एंड देन ऑब्वियसली कॉन्क्वेस्ट, और वो जो एक पूरा मिडीवल जमाना था, अब डिफरेंट तरह के चैलेंजेस हैं, 1000 साल पहले के जो कॉन्क्वेस्ट थे और चीजें थी वो डिफरेंट थी. तो उन कहानियों को हमने एक हिस्ट्री बना दी है, जबकि आज का दौर जो है वो हिस्ट्री का नहीं है, वो रीटेलिंग का दौर है, और हमने उन कहानियों को एक डब्बे में बंद कर दिया है. मुझे याद है कि मैंने बीए में मैंने उर्दू ली थी, एडवांस्ड उर्दू में पढ़ती थी, और एडवांस्ड उर्दू के अंदर मैंने वो जो कहानियां थी वो मैंने उसके बाद कभी ना देखी, ना सुनी, ना पढ़ी, ना मैंने कभी उनको टेलीविजन पे देखा, बल्कि पिछले दिनों टेलीविजन पे एक आ रहा था मन चलेगा सौदा, तो जिसमें वो मुकफ्फा मुसज्जा उर्दू थी, अच्छी खासी, मतलब मुझे भी थोड़ी तकलीफ हो रही थी समझने में. वो इतना पुराना ड्रामा नहीं है, वो 400 साल पुराना उर्दू का कुछ नहीं है, मतलब उर्दू जबान ही खैर इतनी पुरानी नहीं है, लेकिन पॉइंट इज कि वो 10-20 साल पुरानी चीज है वो, और उसको हम कह रहे हैं अरे वाह देखिए जी गोल्डन एज ऑफ पीटीवी. अरे गोल्डन एज का आपने बना दी इसको गोल्डन एज, आपने बनाया ही नहीं, ना टीवी पे वैसा कुछ बनाया, ना फिल्मों में वैसा कुछ बनाया. एक फिल्म बनाई थी माहिर अपनी सॉर्ट ऑफ जिसे कहते हैं ना कल्चरल, अपनी मुस्लिम्स ऑफ हिंदुस्तान की अक्कासी करने के लिए, तो उस बेचारी को क्या मिला, हमने सिर्फ वो जी बहुत अच्छी फिल्म बनाई है कह के हमने 7 दिन में उतर गई सिनेमा से. तो कहने का मकसद ये है कि हाँ मैं बिल्कुल कहती हूँ कि कमर्शलाइज नहीं किया हमने हिस्ट्री को, लेकिन आजकल का जो दौर है उसमें जो हम मुसलमानों का जो बिल्कुल आपने ठीक कहा कि हमारा अपना कसूर है कि हमने एक तो अपनी रीटेलिंग ठीक नहीं की, और जो अपोलोजेटिक टोन हम लेते हैं, बहुत मैंने बड़े अच्छे अक्लमंद लोगों को ये टोन लेते देखा है कि हाँ जी वो तो हाँ हम तो हैं ही ऐसे ना, हम तो मुसलमान हैं ही ऐसे. क्या हम सारे मुसलमान टेररिस्ट हैं? क्या हम सारे मतलब मुसलमानों को हम एक ही पेंट से ब्रश से पेंट करते हैं जैसे वेस्टर्न मीडिया करता है? तो इसमें आई अग्री विद यू कि इसमें वेस्टर्न मीडिया का भी कसूर है, हमारा भी कसूर है, लेकिन जो मुझे टेक लगती है, जो मुझे अब लगता है कि जो पॉइंट आया है वो इम्पोर्टेंट पॉइंट ये है कि हिस्ट्री की रीटेलिंग जो है वो ऐसे हो जैसे भी हो, मॉडर्न रीटेलिंग हो, नॉट सो मॉडर्न रीटेलिंग हो जैसे अर्तुगरुल में किया हुआ है, लेकिन अप्रिसिएशन हो, और उन लोगों के से भी आए जो जिसे कहते जी मनी हाइस्ट हमने देखा तो हमें बड़ा जबरदस्त लगा, या हमने एवेंजर्स देखा तो एवेंजर्स बाय कर लेंगे, लेकिन ये बाय नहीं करेंगे कि अर्तुगरुल गाजी था या उसने कुछ मतलब फतह किया होगा. तो ये
it's the same with me. I didn't watch Ertugrul. It was on Netflix for so long. तो मैंने कहा अल्लाह ये ना काफी सारे बुड्ढे होंगे, तलवारें और उर्दू बोलते होंगे, but in Turkish, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So I ignored it until someone forced me to watch it, and then I was hooked. And I will have to agree with you that we have been very lax. हम हमारा as a culture, लेकिन and there are twofold reasons for this. Number one, कोई हिस्ट्री पढ़ता ही नहीं है, राइट? अगर आपने कोई ड्रामा लिखना है हिस्ट्री के लिए, अगर आप अर्तुगरुल देखें, उसके ऊपर 3 या 4 there are PhD doctors advising them on this, right? और वो, and by the way, history जो है, it's when it's on screen, it's never accurate. अब इंडिया की फिल्म ही देख लें, right? आजकल वहाँ nationalism का दौर चला हुआ है, and fair enough उनका मुल्क है, right? But what they're doing is, ये आप देखें कि अलाउद्दीन खिलजी को जैसे represent किया
I know, it was such a problematic portrayal, yeah.
Yeah, it was, and this didn't used to happen. People were very honest about things, reasonable रखते थे बात को. Obviously, every age reinterprets history according to the political views at the time.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, they do. And I mean, ये जो Ertugrul है, one of the reasons that they can get away with Ertugrul, and it's why it's so fictionalized. Ertugrul ki, while there's a lot of stuff about the Ottoman Empire, Ertugrul is the father of Osman Bey, who was the founder of the Ottoman Empire. So there's only 7 pages. I read an interview of Engin Duziatson, I hope I said that right, but he said there are only 7 pages written about him, so we had a lot of leeway. Right. But he said one of the things with him, he was a very determined person in a very difficult time, right? And he had his values and priorities right. And I think when you watch Ertugrul, when people watch maybe 5-6 episode Jewel series, he वो मजबूर हो के violence की तरफ आता है, because that's the time. Everybody ruled by the sword. It's either killed or be killed. But the big difference between him and other people is he actually stood up for the innocent, the, you know, the Mazloom, right? So he is a hero in that way. I mean, Allah behtar janta hai whether that is actually the case. But you remember you mentioned the Magnificent Century, right? So, and this is what I wanted to say was, that is a typical internalized Orientalist view. And I found this in our More Mehad. Right? Otherwise, it was written by a very well-respected person. And Sarmad is one of my favorite directors. Actors were good too. It was very slow, and it uski sari emphasis bedroom politics ki thi, right? And these things are okay. वो सब चलता है because obviously
इसमें भी है, इसमें भी वो सारी falling in love, falling out of love, jealousy, and all of that is there. Yeah.
Lekin what they do forget is this was the time of might is right. Right? These men were a lot more than कि भाई ओ किसके bedroom इस दिन जाएगा और कौन सी concubine कौन सी क्या position जीत रही है. They were warriors. They were planners. They made towns, they made cities, उनको चलाते थे. I was reading Ira Mukhoti's book, I hope I pronounced that right, I'm really bad, but Daughters of the Sun, which was on the Mughal princesses. उन्होंने इतनी सराइज बनाए which are like, you know, वो जो आजकल हम कह रहे हैं
ये देखिए ना, जो अभी तक जो इमारत, you know, इमारतें खड़ी हुई हैं, वो उनके जमाने की हैं, तो वो क्या होगा उनका इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का, मतलब ब्रेन, जिसकी वजह से आज आप ताजमहल या शालीमार गार्डन या कुतुब मीनार देखते हैं.
Yeah, but those are decorative things, right? Madrasas they made, and madrasas weren't just to read the Quran; they were actually places of learning.
Yeah, they were schools. Madrasa literally translated is the school.
Right. I mean, they were very, very strong educational systems, right? And they had, they built hospitals, they built lots of things. Those are lost, and only the grand monuments are left. So that tells you that we've lost our history. You know, किसी को पता है इन चीजों का? You know, nobody reads books anymore. So we need a serial or something that shows the other side, because that वो जो आप Magnificent Century and More Mehal was a very internalized, almost Orientalist look. कि हाँ जी, you know, look at these people. अगर हम अंग्रेज ना आते तो ये लोग, you know, bedroom politics ही खेलते रहते. Who's going to succeed? आप किसकी बीवी की बारी है, you know, that kind of thing. Huh?
Okay. No, but it's interesting that you mentioned that. You mentioned Magnificent Century and you mentioned More Mehal. They were, if you go back a bit more, Bada Bamulaiza Hoshiar the, वो मतलब वो थोड़ा comedic था.
That was a comedy, right?
Yeah, that was comedy. But then it also tells you a lot that they were experimenting with that as well. And it was a very massive serial at the time. It was very, very popular at the time. I remember Qasim Jalali was playing the king. It was hilarious. But then at the time they had also made Akbar, they had made Babur, they had made these series, and I remember those series, watching them as I was growing up. So they did dabble in that, but I don't, like you said, didn't do really a lot of justice to the fabric, to the authenticity, to the stories. And we were resorting to bedroom politics because we are making it for a TV show. But Ertugrul's immense success should hopefully tell writers and storytellers and producers, filmmakers, channels that if you make a well-made story which you invest in, it will give you the return. I hope people are making money off of it or something. But anyway, हमारा investment ज़्यादा नहीं होगा, हमने तो सिर्फ डब किया है उसको. So सदफ इसके ऊपर बात करते हैं थोड़ा सा, जो coming back to the Twitter conversation जो हो रही है कि culture क्या है, और हमने यहाँ की इस बारे में conversation अर्तुगरुल के बारे में हम बात इसलिए कर रहे हैं, और ये फ्लैश पॉइंट भी इसलिए बना हुआ है क्योंकि क्वेश्चन सब ये कर रहे हैं कि जी हमारा कल्चर क्या है, पाकिस्तानी कल्चर क्या है और हिंदुस्तानी कल्चर क्या है. और ये बातें हम तब भी करते हैं जब हम कोई बॉलीवुड फिल्म भी देखते हैं, तब भी ये बातें होती हैं और ठीक होती हैं, ये डिस्कशन का हिस्सा है. तो मैं ये पूछना चाह रही थी, या मैं इस बारे में बात करना चाह रही थी कि मेरे ख्याल में हमारा, जैसे मैंने कहा कि हम मुस्लिम्स ऑफ हिंदुस्तान हैं, तो हिंदुस्तान जो एक बहुत बर्रे सगीर जिसे कहते हैं, तो बर्रे सगीर के अंदर मुसलमानों का जो एक प्रेजेंस था, जो कि पार्टीशन के बाद अब हमारा अपना खित्ता है, अफगानिस्तान है आपका, ईरान और बांग्लादेश, श्रीलंका, नेपाल वगैरह, ये सारे बाकी के खित्ते बन गए हैं. तो जियोग्राफिक बाउंड्रीज, इस तरह की जो पॉलिटिकल बाउंड्रीज से पहले जो एक मैसिव जियोग्राफिक बाउंड्री थी, वो हम सब एक थे, एक खित्ता था जिसमें आपके मराठाज और आपके पंजाबीज और आपके सिंधीज और आपके पख्तून, वो सब एक मेल्टिंग पॉट में थे. अब हमारी जो मुसलमानों का जो इसमें एक इन्फ्लुएंस था, जैसा कि आपने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा कि हमारे पास पर्शियन इन्फ्लुएंस भी थे. हम जो यहाँ के जो इनिशियल इंडिया में जो ट्रेडिंग हो रही थी, वो पोर्टुगीज में भी उसमें उनमें शामिल है. मैं आई रिमेम्बर आई वाज इन हांगकांग एट वन टाइम, एंड वहां पे मैंने कुछ खाया, एंड अपेरेंटली उस डिश का नाम कुछ पोर्टुगीज था, कि ये पोर्टुगीज खाना है. एंड व्हेन आई एट इट आई फेल्ट लाइक, ओह माय गॉड, दिस फील्स लाइक होम. एंड आई रिमेम्बर आई वाज इन हांगकांग एंड आई यूज्ड टू crave that taste, that smell, that taste. It just wouldn't come. It wouldn't come in the pastas, it wouldn't come in the pizzas. And I remember this was some sort of a lasagna, and they're like, it's Portuguese lasagna. And the moment I ate it, and I was like, oh my god, why does this taste so much like I'm eating something in Pakistan, you know, like some phase 5 Karachi की किसी में eatery में बैठी भी मैं पास्ता खा रही हूँ या lasagna खा रही हूँ. So what I'm saying is कि इस पूरी जो हमारी rich history है, इसके अंदर कल्चर का जो मुझे लगता है वो ये है. आपको क्या लगता है कि आपके ख्याल में पाकिस्तानी कल्चर क्या है? अब तो मुझे लगता है कि पाकिस्तानी कल्चर है, लेकिन उतना उस तरह उसकी अपनी आइडेंटिटी अभी डेवलप नहीं, बिकॉज वी आर वेरी यंग नेशन. 70-80 years is nothing in the age of a nation. और हमारे जो पॉलिटिकल लिफ्ट्स भी हुए हैं, फिर हमारा ये आइडियोलॉजिकल प्रॉब्लम भी है कि हम अपने आप को हिंदू कल्चर, कभी इस्लामिक कल्चर, कभी क्रिश्चियन कल्चर, कभी ये कल्चर तो कभी वो कल्चर, उससे हम अपने आप को सेपरेट कर रहे हैं. फिर विद इन दैट कल्चर हमारे सब कल्चर्स हैं. तो आप कैसे देखती हैं, आप क्या आपका क्या व्यू है कि पाकिस्तानी कल्चर आपके लिए क्या है? मेरे ख्याल से ये एक यंग बट इमर्जिंग कल्चर है, बट हाँ, कोई डिफाइंड, मेरा नहीं ख्याल कि हम इसको कोई डिफाइंड डब्बे में डाल सकते हैं कि जी ये मेरा कल्चर है और मैं यही हूँ. मेरे ख्याल में हमारे पास अरबिक है और टर्किश भी है.
We shouldn't. मेरे ख्याल से that is frightening. जब लोग define too much करना शुरू कर देते हैं ना culture, then you get to that kind of I want my own ethnostate, ना. That is scary.
That I'm superior to you in somehow because I know what my culture is.
You know, and you know what's happening across the border, right?
Yeah, so absolutely.
When you start defining, and we have fought it off, right? And we're still fighting. Right?
Yeah.
When one group says that we are the defining group, that is scary.
The majoritarian view.
Yeah. But and then you forget that no, there's a gradation. There is a beautiful diversity, right? And you know, and I go back to the Quran as a Muslim, right? I'll have to go back to it. It says, I made you so you could know each other, and you're a beautiful diversity, all different. So and I got, because I live in America. And I think America is a very young country as well. So it's a good comparison point. America didn't throw away its roots. So obviously, America is basically founded by English landowners, right? वो England से आए, वो यहाँ settle हुए, थोड़ी देर के बाद उन्हें government ना अच्छी लगी.
And European immigrants as well.
Right, of course, but they came later. Mostly it was English ones.
Founded by them, okay.
Yeah, it was founded by them, and then you had massive waves of immigration of Germans. 50% of Americans say that their background is German.
I think Irish also, they have very big Irish stock as well.
A lot of Irish in the 1920s, you know, so huge population point. So, but what they don't do is deny who they are. What they don't do is कि जी हमारे roots वो नहीं है. They accept that Shakespeare is part of them. They talk about the Tudors and the Stuarts and then George III, and then they move on, right? Whereas we have a very strange way. One group is always saying we're not Indian, we're not
like
Indian.
they're also
we're
accepting
young.
the Victorian era,
Yeah.
but also the wild west, because
Right.
that is the new, that was the new, you know, fresh America and everything.
Right. Right. So, but I think in Pakistan, we still haven't got to the point of
Why are we
tolerance.
so insecure though?
I don't know why. It's like, I think we also want to define ourselves. You know, hum inki tarah nahi hai. Halanki there's no point to it. We are. Inhi se aaye hain. So we are unki tarah, lekin we're slightly different. That's all. And that slight difference उनको चुभता है. और कुछ हमारे जो लोग हैं who want to Arabicize everything, which is no way is ever going to happen, because that's not us, उनको भी चुभता है. So if someone is dancing, you know, I had a little bit of a Twitter spat, believe it or not, over Ertugrul, and this is what is shocking to me. I talk about politics. I have had less violent reactions to talking about politics than I have had about Ertugrul, and I can understand some people are worried. They are very worried over drama. And okay, let's go to this, right, about cultural identity, right? When we say a drama is important or not, I was reading an article in one of India's very respected magazines, Printin or something, and they were saying the Ramayana was one of the things that motivated a lot of people towards, I think, extremism or the Ram Mandir or something like that. And I thought, right, can dramas really do that? And I said, no, I don't think dramas can motivate you that much. They might motivate one or two individuals, perhaps, but I don't think they can create a mass movement. But they can inspire you, which is why, you know, you and I regularly अपना सर पकड़े होते हैं. Why are these women on TV? It's type of regressive stories, because when you get this drip of a certain style, then you know
people internalize it.
Yeah, people do. I mean, look at these Orientalist views. We do internalize it, right? We've forgotten these people were warriors and administrators of cities and tax collectors,
of course,
and they set laws and rules, you know. So we've forgotten that part, and all we can see is, you know, oh, gee, well, they were very profligate, and they were this and they were that. So yeah, I agree with you. The importance of a drama, though, is there. It can change minds, but you know, it takes a lot more than just a few episodes and you know, a little bit of excitement to do, you know, change your religion.
Yeah, but my thing is more towards asking what this drama has done is that it has started like a bit of a storm. के one group is saying कि ये तो हमें तो इंतजार ही इसका था कि अर्तुगरुल गाजी आए और फिर हमें बताए और शान हमें लीड करे. लेकिन एक तरफ एक शान से याद आया, शान भी मौजूद है इस डिस्कशन में, जिनका ख्याल है कि नहीं जी हम अपनी चीज क्यों नहीं बना रहे. अब कितना मूसा गुजर बनाएंगे भाई, उसके अलावा भी कुछ हैं चीजें जिंदगी में वो करने के लिए. वो कब तक जैसे सत्ता करके भाग जाएंगे. I love Shan. Shan, if you listen to this, I love you. You're amazing. But stop this. And I think कि वो जब बात करते हैं तो मुझे लगता है वाकई उनको ट्विटर नहीं यूज करना आता, क्योंकि वो जो बात करते हैं हमजा अली बासी की तरह, कि हमजा अली बासी के पीछे इतने लोग पड़े होते हैं, मैं खुद उनमें से एक हूँ, लेकिन रियल में हमजा इज अ स्वीट हार्ट. आप उनसे मिले, हमजा से आप बैठ के आप लड़ाई करें, आप बात करें, आप 10 दफा बात करेंगे और हमजा आपसे बहुत अच्छे तरीके से बात करेंगे, आप आपकी भी सुनेंगे, अपनी भी सुनाएंगे. लेकिन क्या है कि जो ये जो ट्विटर बन जाता है ना 40 वर्ड्स में 50 वर्ड्स में आपको अपनी पूरी बात करनी होती है, तो उसमें आई थिंक दे बोथ चूज लाइक द वर्स्ट वर्ड्स पॉसिबल एंड दे लाइक नाउ लेट्स सी व्हाट हैपेंस. ये बम फोड़ के आते हैं. सो व्हाट आई थिंक इज के हमजा जैसे लोग, इस डिस्कशन में तो हमजा का इतना नहीं है, मैं बात करूंगी, लेकिन शान है. फिर एक वो कैंप है जो हमारा माशाल्लाह मेरे हर दिल अजीज, जिस कैंप से मैं भी बिलोंग करती हूँ, लेकिन वो कैंप मुझे अच्छा डिसोन कर देता है, जो पाकिस्तानी लिबरल्स का कैंप है, जो कि कहता है जी ये क्या है, ये क्यों दिखा दिया है, और वो उनको इतनी एलर्जिक रिएक्शन हो गया है अर्तुगरुल से कि नहीं जी क्यों देख रहे हैं सब अर्तुगरुल, ये तो बहुत ज्यादा मुसलमान पन हो गया है, तो ये तो हमारा कल्चर नहीं है, ये तो हम नहीं है. तो मैं ये कह रही हूँ कि ये जो 3 किस्म के कैंप्स बने हुए ना इस वक्त, उनका कोई यूनिफिकेशन पॉइंट मुझे नजर नहीं आ रहा है, सिवाय इसके कि एवरीबॉडी इज वाचिंग अर्तुगरुल. इसमें इनकी चांदी हो रही है.
Well, let's just say I'm in camp number 4, right?
Oh, you're in camp 4. What camp is this?
Yeah, there's a 4th camp, और वो है हमारे drama makers, राइट
हाँ,
वो इस वक्त खौफजदा है क्योंकि उन्होंने लिमिट और रिस्ट्रिक्ट की हुई थी वो टर्किश ड्रामास को.
हाँ,
Obviously, you know, the Turkish dramas have got a lot of clout क्योंकि उनके पास पैसा होता है जो
हाँ.
हमारे producers नहीं लगाना चाहते और ना I think they have the money but they just don't want to spend that money.
No, I
Now,
don't think they have the money.
right,
Honestly, I feel like they don't have the money.
yeah. Well, so it's much easier कि आपको ना you cast Hira Mani and tell her to cry in a corner, right?
I don't like this. You don't like Hira or what? She's adorable.
No, I love Hira. Actually, I used to, I watched her, what's it, Preet Na Kariyo Koi. I loved her, but I'm just taking an example. Okay.
Have you seen Pagli, by the way? Just sort like off a
actor.
tangent. Have you seen Pagli? Watch Pagli if you haven't.
Yes, I have actually, and it was very good. She acted really well.
Yeah, but you're right.
no,
she has done a lot of like these really weepy.
Yeah, but she's not the only one. Let's be fair, she's not the only one. Right? Yeah. This is the quickest way to success, isn't it? Right? Yeah. And then you get to pick and choose once you establish yourself or whatever. But
and it's sad that you need these things to establish yourself.
Yeah, but that's what it is. I mean, you know, and I know. I mean, I've heard writers say to me, "मैंने ऐसी औरत लिखी थी," and then the writer, the producer sent it back and said, "नहीं, हम ऐसा करेंगे." And if the writer does not do this, the line producer will sit and on set and correct everything. And by correcting, बड़े फखर से line producer said to me, "Oh, I've written whole episodes." So when you see something that doesn't make sense and they change characters and things like this, writer मजबूर होते हैं अक्सर ना.
नहीं और कुछ बेचारे writers तो ऐसे होते हैं, मैं अगर नाम नहीं ले सकती, कुछ बेचारे writers तो ये तक आके कहते हैं कि हमने तो लिखा ही नहीं था ये, लेकिन फिर दोबारा लिखवाया गया कि मतलब हमारी कहानी के ट्रेजेक्टरी में ये था ही नहीं. और एक राइटर ऐसे हैं जिनको मैं अगर नाम नहीं ले सकती, उन्होंने मुझे ये तक बताया था कि मैंने मेरी हीरोइन जो थी वो आखिरी पेज में उसका एक पेज का मैंने डायलॉग लिखा था कि वो मतलब बताती है कि मैं क्या महसूस कर रही हूँ, और जब वो बदला गया और उनके ऊपर प्रेशर डाला गया कि बदलें और क्या ना कर, मरता क्या ना करता, वो भी नौकरी कर रहे हैं, तो उन्होंने एक्चुअली कहते हैं फिर उसके बाद अगले 3 एपिसोड तक उसका कोई जुमला ही नहीं था, वो चुप बुत बन के खड़ी थी कि जो आओ मेरे ऊपर जुल्म हो जाए. तो ये रियलिटी है.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, right, they want to do that. वो producers जो हैं वो पैसे लगाना नहीं चाहते हैं या they don't have the money. लेकिन you know, with the Ertugrul, उनके पास तो एक US से stunt team आई थी. Look at the horses. Ertugrul में sets देखें, घोड़े देखें, उनको ही संभालना कितने बजट चाहिए.
वो टेंट तो भाई, तो पूरे टेंट में उन्होंने जो बनाए 2000 टेंट sort of show किए हैं उन्होंने.
Right. So what, and अभी तो आपने palaces नहीं देखे. Right, so that's going to go on. So in Konya, so what I'm going to say is that they're quite right. Drama industry is worried that if there's going to be a flood of imports, तो हम लोगों के कौन देखेगा? And I think that's reasonable, right? कि भाई it should be a controlled entry, कि थोड़ा सा contact foreign हो for inspiration. And I go to your point now, कि Ertugrul should be a starting point. Not, you know, चलो politics को गोली मारो, आप किसी को राजी नहीं कर सकते. People have their mindsets, and the only way, you know, that they will learn is by reading and watching and understanding. With time comes understanding. You just have to be tolerant.
But my problem is some people are not ready for dialogue also. I think that reading, understanding, watching, and exposure are very important, but the fifth pillar of trying to be a better person and get out of your preconceived notions is dialogue. If you are incapable of dialogue, and if you are वही मुर्गी की एक टांग every time नहीं मैं ये, आप अगले की सुनोगे नहीं कि अगले का पर्सपेक्टिव भी किसी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से आ रहा है, अगला जाहिल नहीं है, तो वो जब तक नहीं होगा तो वो मसला है. सदफ.
Well, I'm sorry, the Pakistani liberal establishment, and I used to think I was a liberal. Maybe I still am. I hope so. Probably my credentials are not changing.
Have you been banished?
Because I like. Yeah, I'm probably been kicked out because I like Ertugrul. But that aside, I think Twitter is one of those places where it's very difficult to have a decent conversation.
Yeah,
it's all
it
about
used to be, but it's not anymore.
Yeah, it's not become that. So there's no cure for someone who calls you an old stupid idiot on you know, which I've just been called for liking Ertugrul. So there's no solution to that. But it's okay. I mean, so I just laugh. But there's no solution to that. And agar log dialogue nahi karenge, to it shows their own insecurities. But on the flip side, okay, हम लोग कह रहे हैं अच्छा जी liberals नहीं है. Let's talk about the conservative people. I love Ertugrul. It's Ramzan. I'm reading the Quran. I like to think I'm a good Muslim. I don't know if I am. Right? I'm trying.
That's for God to decide, not for others. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think I need to prove it, but I don't think that Ertugrul is the standard bearer of Islam. It's not Islamic history, right? It is the history of the Oghuz Turks and how they established their empire. And yes, in between, because they're an Islamic people, they are giving you lessons on Islamic history, right? Because there is, like Sufism.
And at the end of it, it's a work of fiction. It's based on reality, but it is fiction. Like, I don't understand. अच्छा ये क्यों नहीं हमसे हजम हो रहा? It's जैसे 10 चीजें और देखते हो वैसे ये भी देख लो. हमने हर चीज का हमने अखाड़ा क्यों खोलना होता है? मुझे समझ नहीं आता.
I think
it's a fun thing. Watch it. Forget it.
It goes back to the fundamentalism and extremism that we have suffered as a society. I think that there are some legitimate concerns. You have to be reasonable, just as I'm saying to conservative people, okay, look, this isn't Islamic history. This isn't our history. This is the history of the Turks. And you have to understand that. But because they talk about Islamic references and they give Islamic lectures in between, it's familiar, right? So it's not our history. It's not our Islamic history. We have a separate history, right? But at the same time, I think the liberals have a point, because they're saying, look, we've just gone through a period of extreme fundamentalism. We're just recovering from it. People were blowing each other up, right? Every day. Lahore tak aa gayi thi ye baat. And we had a reputation for this, and now this person is talking about, like, follow Islamic values. Pata nahi ab kya hoga. So, like, bud kar rahe hain sab aapas mein, and in the end, it's a piece of entertainment, right? Your society and your views should be strong enough to be able to listen to a different point of view.
But
and
I think you rightly picked up that this is a conversation also which is very relevant to Ertugrul. But I think that a bit of a nuance is here, and like I said, whatever I have seen so far, I'm hoping to make a more sort of valuable judgment later after I finish all the episodes. But from what I have seen so far, I believe that this is the kind of, I think, pan-Islamism that should have been there, instead of the kind of Islamism we were introduced to, which kind of led to the extremism of society. So, for example, when we were just discussing this, I think over WhatsApp also, that look at the female roles in Ertugrul. While they have traditional roles like, oh, ladki khana laga rahi hai, or ladki, but then you have to remember this is the freaking 13th
century.
Yeah, we had just gotten, I think, we were just recently hunter-gatherers or whatever. I'm joking. So what I'm saying is that this was a very patriarchal society out of need. And within that patriarchal norms, you had a Halim Sultan, or Halim at this point right now. She's Halim to me. So Halim is somebody who says no, who says yes, who has her own mind. And you rightly pointed it out that look at all these female characters, and just building on that point, I'm saying that what you just said about the extremism, people being a bit insecure about that extremism, कि यार ऐसा तो नहीं है कि हम दोबारा से उस मंजन पे जा रहे हैं, तो मैं ये कह रही हूँ कि वो वाला मंजन है ही नहीं, और ये डिफरेंशिएट करना बहुत जरूरी है, ये नुआंस समझना बहुत जरूरी है कि आपने अगेन वही वाली बात है कि इस शो में तो पाकिस्तानी रेगुलर ड्रामा से ज्यादा है एम्पावर्ड लड़की. मतलब बहुत सारे ड्रामों से, पाकिस्तान में बहुत सारे ड्रामे ऐसे बनते हैं जिसमें लड़कियां बहुत एम्पावर्ड है माशाल्लाह, लेकिन कुछ ड्रामे तो ऐसे हैं जिन्हें जबान ही नहीं है बेचारी की, पता नहीं क्या कर रही है वो.
अच्छा, एक आप मुझे बताएं, I have watched 5 seasons. There is not a single instance in which a woman is accused, तुम घर से बाहर क्यों निकली, तुम पे शक होगा, तुम्हारा दुपट्टा सीधा नहीं है. कोई बाप अपनी बेटी को जलील नहीं कर रहा है जैसे हमारे हर ड्रामे होते हैं. There is a vilification campaign of men, particularly Muslim men in our dramas, right? And it's done by other Muslim men who are producing them. Writers don't want to write this. The way fathers are written, like they're tyrants. इसमें I was like shocked. I was not expecting. इतना प्यार करते हैं अपनी बेटियों से. Nobody accuses them of stuff. वो घोड़े के ऊपर बैठ के दूसरे गांव जा रही होती हैं. And those are difficult times, right? They become leaders of their tribes, right? And the women, सबसे बड़ी बात ये, yes, they observe पर्दा हिजाब किया होता है उन लोगों ने, but it doesn't stop them from doing anything. They fight with swords. They are leadership positions. They're big time advisors, and consent, right? You haven't seen the whole series. I've seen the 5 episodes. The biggest emphasis, even in 5 seasons, and I have seen them not just once, several times, because I enjoyed. And the reason they do have that Ghareli politics, they do have the jealousy.
They're even
They
the
will
first
even have
episodes.
by the way, they will have a Dusi Bibi strand in season 2 or 3.
Okay.
But you'll see the way you will be shocked at the way they handle it.
See,
because
now
it's
that's
so
my thing.
respectful.
हम इस चीज को बना देखा दूसरी बीवी dude, Game of Thrones नहीं देखा था आपने? उसमें क्या था? वो तो यार वो वाला एपिसोड देखी थी यार, उसमें ये हो गया था.
Yes.
तो ये है हमारे जो बाइफरकेशन है, जिसमें हम इतनी जल्दी से एक्सेप्ट कर लेते हैं वेस्टर्न मीडिया से आने वाली कोई भी चीज, and there's nothing wrong with it. This is for my conservative brothers and sisters who in case are watching, कि कोई मसला नहीं है, वो भी देखें, ये भी देखें, लेकिन एंजॉय करें और आगे बढ़ जाएं. उसको हैंग अप करके, और जो मेरे ख्याल से सबसे वल्नरेबल आपकी जो एज होती है वो वही 12 से 18 20 वाली होती है, जिसमें आपको हीरोज बनाने का शौक होता है. तो वो देखें तो मेरे ख्याल से उनको थोड़ी गाइडेंस देनी चाहिए, कहते हैं ना पेरेंटल गाइडेंस.
By the way, despite all the sword fights, this is about controlling your nafs. This is something that is emphasized throughout Ertugrul, is that self-control, discipline. ऐसे नहीं करना कि you are wild or you go and hurt people or you do anything. And there's a big emphasis on protecting the innocent and the people who are yatimon ka. These are our real values. Yeah. Right? Our values are compassionate. Our religion is about compassion. Right? And also there's a lot of tolerance. Right? While in this movie, in this drama, you will see that while they do fight the Knights Templars because they were extremists, they don't fight the local Christians. In fact, they get along with them. Right? And that's a very important point. They protect them at times. Yeah. So
see, that is the, which I think it's great if it's, because I haven't seen it, so I won't comment. If they have shown it the way you're saying it, then that is great. What's problematic is last year I watched Kesari, and Kesari made it's the Battle of Saragadi, where Akshay Kumar plays one of the main 6 soldiers. There's 10-15 soldiers who are battling it out against invaders, Afghan invaders. And that film, I was like, how do you show positive Muslim characters, compassion towards Muslim characters, and still be Islamophobic? How do you do that? And only Bollywood can manage that, because they were on such a high of nationalism, and that whole the whole trope of Muslims are terrorists and Muslims are jihadis and Muslims are crazy, and oh my God, we are so nice, but Muslims are not nice to us, they betray us.
अच्छा ये मुझे बड़ा चुभता है, ये we are so nice. Nobody's nice.
Nobody's nice. Everybody has villains.
हम भोले भाले, हम सीधे साधे.
हम सेंट हैं, और अगला जो है, अब इन्होंने कलंक में भी यही किया था to some extent, इन्होंने केसरी में यही किया था, उड़ी में तो था ही यही पूरा का पूरा. तो बॉलीवुड के अंदर पिछले साल, और मुझे बड़ा अफसोस होता है, और मेरे ख्याल से हम इस बात के साथ मतलब बात खत्म करेंगे क्योंकि काफी लंबी चैट हो गई है, but we will be back with more discussions about Ertugrul and other TV shows that we're watching. कि मुझे अफसोस इस बात पे होता है कि कोई भी फोबिया हो, चाहे वो इस्लाम हो, किसी भी रिलीजन के अगेंस्ट कोई भी प्रोपेगेंडा हो जो गलत बनाया जाए, तो सबसे बढ़कर जो है, जो आर्टिस्ट कम्युनिटी होती है, उनका काम होता है इसको ब्रेक डाउन करना. लेकिन ये मेरी आइडियलिस्ट सोच है, क्योंकि मैं जब पढ़ती हूँ, जब नाजीज वगैरह थे, हिटलर के जमाने में भी जो आर्टिस्ट थे उन्होंने साथ दिया था, उन्होंने उसके लिए प्रोपेगेंडा फिल्में भी बनाई थी, बड़ी खूबसूरत फिल्में बनाई थी अपेरेंटली, जो बड़ी उनको अक्लेम मिला था, और नोन फिल्म मेकर्स ने बनाई थी.
Well, they even went to Hollywood and they forced the Hollywood producers to make more German-friendly.
So that whole ethno-fascism that was there is a very dangerous trend, and it made me sad to see a lot of these things last year in Bollywood. A lot of the hate that I think they have sort of legitimized through that platform is just very, very sad. So what I'm saying is that I hope that whatever we make, अब चाहे हम भी कोई मुस्लिम लीडर के ऊपर कुछ भी बनाए, इंशाल्लाह हम बनाएंगे मे बी, या कोई भी रीजन बनाए या कुछ भी बनाए, तो किसी माइनॉरिटी को या किसी को विलिफाई किए बगैर, उनकी वीक पॉइंट्स को पिक करके, उनको स्टेरियोटाइप किए बगैर जो है हम बनाएं. We should make shows, we should make features which ultimately, yes, are inclusive, yes, absolutely, and also teaching compassion, like you said. कि अगर हम compassion नहीं सिखा रहे हैं कल्चर सिखाने के बाद और हिस्ट्री सिखाने के बाद, तो फिर बेकार है, फिर आप कुछ भी करते हैं.
I mean, I think in the last and final analysis, and this I know you got to wind up now, but this is the thing why I really enjoyed Ertugrul was they didn't treat the other side as stupid or evil. They showed that those people had very strong beliefs. They had really, even the Mongols, you'll see they're very spiritual. उनका शुरू में वो ऐसे लगता है कि ये लोग पागल हैं या खून पी रहे हैं, ये करें, but those are actually historical practices. They used to do that, but they have deep feelings. They worship their gods. They do the same kind of stuff that Ertugrul does, and you know, they didn't vilify them as evil.
Well, definitely, I think we should once a lot of people watch it, because I think अभी भी बहुत सारे लोग अभी मेरी तरह नए बैंडवैगन पे आए हैं. तो मेरे ख्याल से जब हम सारे आपके उस पेज पे आ जाएंगे कि आपने तो सब देख लिया, तो हम भी आएंगे, तो हम इसके ऊपर भी डेफिनेटली बात करेंगे कि क्या वाकई बैलेंस था या नहीं. और क्योंकि अभी जो मुझे लगा है पिछले एक दो एपिसोड देखें, तो आई लाइक दैट दिस इज अ फॉर्मिडेबल एनिमी. यस, द एनिमी इज Muslims versus Christians at that point in time, which was a reality, but at the same time the enemy is not, like you said, stupid. But it's a very formidable enemy, and they are very wise, and they are very they make the decisions strategically. They're not just, oh, I'm gonna kill everybody, and they're not monsters.
Right.
But then that is the status quo at the time. So anyway, wrapping up, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Sadaf, for joining in.
Thank you for inviting me. It was always a pleasure.
Yes, and we will definitely talk more about Ertugrul. I hope, guys, koi bata de humko. Tell us if we are saying it right. So we will talk more about it, because there's so much to unpack here. I really like the show. Just to sum up, for the first 2-3 episodes that I've seen, I really like it. I think it's fun. It's a fun watch. It's fun to sort of go back, and I'm a big history buff as well, as much as I can possibly be given my limitations. But whatever I've discovered, I really like reading about it. So it's giving me a nice, I start to connect those things. So it's really fun to watch. How are you liking it? What do you think of this discussion? Let us know in the comments. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And if you have any points that you wish that we could expand on when speaking about Ertugrul or talking about cultural, I don't know, I don't want to call it cultural imperialism. What do you say, Sadaf? What should we call it?
Cultural hegemony. I don't know.
I don't think we call it hegemony. I think we should call it maybe it's cultural conversation. I guess that's basically right now we're opening up.
I think that's a good word. Yeah. Cultural conversation.
A cultural conversation about Ertugrul and its impact and the questions around it. So let us know what you think. Thank you for watching once again. If you watched the whole thing, then kudos. Thank you, Sadaf, once again.
Good Hafiz.
Good Hafiz.